So the next person I'd like to introduce you to is Yong Kang. Yong Kang has been working as a private tutor in mathematics and accounting for 2.5 years now. So tell me a little bit about what it is like to be a private tutor.
Okay, basically my job scope will includes that I'll go to the student house, then I'll help them clear the homework, like teach them the homework and clear any concept they don't understand. And usually my work only start in the late afternoon or in the evening. Yeah. So basically I work opposite from people who work 9 to 5. Yeah.
Okay, and when you work with the students and doing private tuition, what do you actually, how do you actually work with them?
It is actually free will by myself. Like I will decide if I will ask the student if there's any homework they doesn't understand, then need to go through that. I will tackle those questions first. Or sometimes if exam is coming, like this period, then I will bring out revise certain topics which I feel that is very important for the exam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And how do you end up as a private tutor? Can you give me a bit of background on how you found
Actually,
yourself there?
before I was a tutor, I tried a few jobs like accounting, animation, auditing. So I was actually jobless at a point of time, and I wasn't sure what career direction I was going to. So I decided to help out my friend, volunteer in his office to do some accounting work for his client. And first month it was just accounting and it's just something that I'm already familiar with. And second month there is an intern that comes in and I'm supposed to teach the intern. Then I realized that teaching is much more fun than doing accounting itself. And I realized that I actually one of my ambition as a childhood is to be a teacher, but I don't really want to manage a class of 30 to 40 students. So I kind of like forgotten about this ambition of mine.
Yeah.
And through that incident, I kind of thought, why don't I teach one-to-one like a private tutor? So that's how I get into tutoring.
So it's something you kind of fell into quite by chance then.
Yeah, by chance.
And what do you like about being a tutor?
I think being a tutor, the biggest satisfaction is to help the student understand the concept from someone who doesn't know the concept to the enlightening face you see on their face. It's quite rewarding. And also to see them improve in their grades, that is also something that is very satisfying. And of course, being a tutor, you have a lot of free time also. So in the morning and afternoon, I can do something that I like writing and other stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, the people we work with is also very important to us as INFJs, and they can either energize us or drain us. So as you work with kids a lot of the time, do you find it energizing or draining?
For most part, yes, because the students share a lot of interesting story about our schools, and especially our generation is so different from them. So it's quite interesting to hear their stories and what they are learning now and how is it different from us. But sometimes you will get some student which is quite tiring and who doesn't want to study. Then this type of student, I will try for a few lessons, and if really is not compatible, I might end up giving up and letting them go because it will be very miserable for both of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is it you may not like about your job and wish you could change?
One thing it would be the schedule because the schedule could be quite flexible. So in the sense that there is no fixed daily or even weekly, even though you have a weekly schedule lesson, but there might be something that comes out like school have events, the child is sick, and all that kind of thing. So you may have 2 lessons in a day, then suddenly there's no lesson at all. Then either all are postponed to other days in the week. So it's very flexible. So to an INFJ, maybe that may be a bit spontaneous and it takes some time to get used to.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I mean, it sounds like you tried accounting, you tried teaching, and you ended up as a private tutor. But what about new graduates to consider being a private tutor as their career path? Is this something you would recommend new graduates or perhaps people looking for mid-career shift?
For new graduate, I'm kind of on the fence because after being an accountant, animator, and all the different jobs, I feel that at least it's a very good exposure to different industry and really learn about the corporate world, like how they work and all that. But if you just start out as a tutor, then you will be very stuck to the academic world, which doesn't have that much exposure to like other industry. But for me, career change, I think it would be a good way, because if you did several jobs and you know what you like and dislike, and you can use tutoring as a way for a bridge to do other things in the morning and afternoon.
Yes.
So it's like you can have a fixed, have a stable kind of income, but at the same time you can explore other things that you really want to do also.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. And is this something you can consider doing for the rest of your life?
For me, when I take out tutoring, I see it as a midterm kind of a strategy rather than a long term, because income wise, it's really tough to do one to one. And also, teaching math and accounting is not really something that I hope to teach other people. And there's so much more to life than just math and accounting.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Right. And so if it's not something you can consider doing for the rest of your life, what kind of vision do you have for your ideal career?
For me, I think the most I really enjoy writing. So probably the vision that I have would be to be a full-time author. So I write about self-compassion and mindfulness, and I hope to have make the world a more peaceful place to live in. So I do that by helping individuals be more self-compassion, and through this, they could influence other people in their surrounding and create a ripple effect. Yeah. So, and if at the point where I have more a team or more resources, I might choose to like bring self-compassion and mindfulness, this type of topics, to schools or even online platforms to help more people, because a lot of things that we study in school is not necessarily things that are useful in life. So I hope to bring more of these topics to those people. Yeah.
It's a really great vision you have there to bring subjects that are not covered in schools right into the classrooms. And I understand you also run a blog, the nerdycreator.com.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your blog and what has it been like writing about topics, I think, about mindfulness and also about INFJs?
Actually, I started the blog writing about animation. As I was an animation student, we are encouraged to write about our experience. But over time, I realized that instead of writing animation, I write more about life with animation. Like I studied animation, I did this short, then I will have come up with some insights on life itself. So slowly, the blog evolved from an animation blog to more about self-compassion and mindfulness blog. And INFJ is something that when I started writing about INFJ is just something later on, when I felt that I read a lot about INFJ and I also want to have something to share. So I just opened out a section about INFJ on my blog. Yeah.
It's just really good contributing to the global source of information on INFJs in the world. It's a great platform to have you have there. So now, thanks so much for that sharing with us, Yong Kang. I'd like to open up to the floor if there's any questions for Yong Kang. So I'll just repeat the question. The question is, did you feel at any point in time you wanted to give up on your line of work as a tutor?
Tutor. There are certain students which is very tough to handle. And the good thing about being self-employed is you can choose your client. So if there are certain students who is really very tough, then if not compatible to you, you can choose to let them go. Yeah, but I never thought of giving up on the job itself lah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
So when you say let go as well, which this kind of parents, I don't want to have your child here.
Yeah, in a nice way. I will say something like, I think your child is a bit playful, and I'm not the assertive kind. Maybe you should hire a tutor who is more assertive. Yeah, yeah, the nice way of letting go of the student. Yeah,
Yeah, it's firing a student.
yeah, sort of firing the student. But I must say that there is really certain student which is very tough for INFJ to handle, especially those with the more stronger in extroverted sensing. They are very active, and I know that they don't enjoy doing math. And for me to force them to do math, I have the balance between the parents' objective, which is for them to do well, and whether I want to force someone who really don't want to do math to do math. Yeah, I could imagine in their shoe if like physical education was one of the topic tested in school. From INFJ, for me, it will be very tough for me. So I understand their point of view that it's tough for them.
Yes.
So I don't wish to force them also.
That's a great balance you have there. Any other questions? Okay, the question is what brought you to mindfulness?
This is actually a very long story. Okay, after animation, I was kind of lost. Okay, because I did accounting, I did audit, account, and animation. Then I went to Malaysia to do animation for 6 months. But I studied for 2.5 years. And when I was in my 3rd month, I kind of know the animation job is not for me. So I came back to Singapore. I was doing animation in Malaysia. So I came back to Singapore. I was kind of lost. I don't know where I want to go. Like, I just spent so much time and money studying animation. It's not right for me. Then where do I go? So I got a little bit depressed for like 2 months. And this depression really got me very down. And one day when I was at the river, I thought of jumping down to commit suicide. But I actually didn't plan to do that. It's just a thought. The thought really scares me. So I took a seat at one of the benches. And I was sitting there. I actually realized how beautiful the surrounding was. And it's actually my neighborhood. The surrounding was so beautiful that I've been to Malaysia for 6 months. I didn't know that it changed so much. There's flowers, there's like green patches, and then it just hit me that actually I'm stuck in my head for so long, for 2 months. And I didn't even know that it was called mindfulness at that time. The being present and enjoying the beauty. Then after that, I read more books. Then somebody tell me that, hey, you're practicing mindfulness. So, oh, what is mindfulness? So I started looking at mindfulness. That's how I get to mindfulness. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing your story, Yong Kang. It's really great.
Yeah.